Hello, hello. This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. This is Christina Barr. Today we are going to be talking about electors in Michigan being arrested when people were disputing the results of the 2020 election in certain states, like in Georgia and Arizona and Michigan and some other places. They decided to have electors submit a slate of people as things were being litigated because you only have a certain amount of time before you can like certify and do everything. So they wanted to make sure like, hey, if everything got turned over or turned around or whatever, here's this list of actual Trump electors, and there's some precedents here that we'll talk about. Well, in Michigan, our attorney general, which is a crazy person, we've talked about Dana Nessel quite a bit on this show. So some of you who are familiar with my content know that she's a bit of a crazy person. Decided to go ahead and charge them. She had at first submitted, some information over to federal authorities, but she decided to go ahead and charge them with 8 counts. There's like forgery and other things like that. So it's a pretty heavy day in Michigan. At least I was on the phone talking to some folks today. I know some of these people on the list who are prosecuted. So we'll talk about that, and I don't know what will happen. But also country music star Jason Aldean was his song "Try That on a Small Town" was pulled because people said that it was lynchy, I guess, and racist. And I'm not like a huge, well, I don't really listen to much secular music. I don't really listen to country. That's really not my my genre. But so I just listened to the song, and it's really offensive. People are offended by the song. So we'll be talking about those things today. Before we jump into it, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. Please make sure that you guys are submitting your emails and stuff so you can get different emails when we send them out. Please check out different merchandise that we have at the store. Like we got the I'm not the victim you're looking for. I talked about this yesterday, the denounce white supremacy, defeat Joe Biden, with a list of some of his racist sayings and musings on the back. So you guys can go ahead and get those shirts. I have them in short sleeve and long sleeve, and I have the long sleeve version. It's pretty comfy, so you guys can check out the different merch on the site. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. It costs to stream, costs to run my website. So if you can support in that kind of way, I very much appreciate it. Those who have, and those if you can't, I understand, but I thank you guys for commenting, for adding other people, encouraging the people to watch. All that stuff does really help. And if you would like to give directly while you're watching, you guys can do super chats for watching on YouTube. On Facebook there are stars, but there is a link to the donate in the description if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube. So you can just do it that way. Everybody does take a cut when you do like super chats and stuff, or super thanks or whatnot. So if you want to give directly to the website, you guys can do that. I don't really have a meme for you guys today. Oh, thank you. Someone said they really do like the shirt, the victim one. I really do like that shirt myself. I do have that one. I have worn that one. That appears to be among my most popular, and I keep saying I'm gonna have some new stuff, and I promise I will. um, but thank you guys for supporting. I got a nice comment from a viewer yesterday that said their son looked at the book Super Kid, got and they read it within their child is 10 and couldn't put the book down, and they finished it within 4 hours, which I think is pretty impressive. I started questioning myself, like, can I finish my book in 4 hours? Like, I guess I can. No, it's a I really really do love my Super Kid books, and for those of you who don't know, I have 17 books that are published, over 30 written. So Super Kid is a one that has a lot of good, values for your kid and stuff in there. It's not like political or anything like that, but it's just like a good solid moral kind of book. I really would like my dream when I first made it was it for it to be like adapted into like a movie or something, and it'd be like a family film that people would watch and really like Sandlot and stuff. I think it came out in like 20, I don't know if it was 11 or 13 or sometime around then. I don't know. I can't remember the exact year. I'd have to open up the back of the book, I guess, to find out, to remember. It was a while ago, so it's been out for a minute. I really wanted his dad, for those of you who've read it, is named Henry. Because I really, really wanted Henry Cavill to play his dad. Henry Cavill's the actor who played Superman, and the latest thing I guess he's been in is what's the Netflix show that's The Witcher. So yeah, I really really wanted him to be the dad. So he's a little older now, but I would, if it was greenlit to be something tomorrow, I'd still be like, Henry, you can still do it. But yeah, it's based loosely on some stories about my dad when he was a kid growing up. So I'm glad that people are enjoying it. I'm glad that people are liking it. So thank you guys very much for checking that out. Anyway, I do not have a meme for you guys today. I'm just gonna jump into the story. So I want to first start off by talking about this country music song. So the music video, Try That in a Small Town. As I just said, I'm not like a big on country music. I don't really listen to, we didn't grow up listening to really secular music. We weren't really allowed to, even when like TV shows like All That would come on. When the musical guests came on, we'd literally have to turn off the TV or change the channel. We weren't really allowed to watch that stuff. So I didn't really start listening to kind of more secular music, I guess, until I was like adult-ish. And I mean, I remember when I was in choir, and that we were gonna do like some Queen songs, and I was like, who? And everyone looked at me like, what? Which I did feel kind of silly, because once I saw like American Idol night and they did Queen night, I'm like, oh, I guess I know like all of these songs. I just didn't know the name of the people who did it. So anyway, um if I listen to a song or something, maybe it's like while I'm writing, I find like a romantic song or something. So that's pretty much the extent of it. The only time I really listen to the radio is like K-Love or something. But country music has never been like my thing, really. Not that I can't find a good country song that I like. It's just not a thing I jump to. So I didn't hear this song until maybe like 20 minutes ago. And if that, but I saw the controversy, and I saw some of the lyrics, and I'm like, okay, why are they saying that this is racist? And then I saw the music video, and I'm like, why are they saying that this is racist? So I don't really want to play it so much, because but maybe I'll like show a little bit of the imagery. I don't want this to get flagged on YouTube for copyright, and then them not let me play the rest of anything. So maybe if I just share my screen and play a little bit of the imagery in the background and without the music. So I'm not going to play the music. Maybe I'll play it a little bit and then I'll silence it, but I don't want to get flagged. Um but people I guess the song's been out since May, I guess. I think that's what they said, and but now there's a big outrage over it, and so people, threw a fit, and CMT decided to have rotation. Um and I guess they never usually do that. But the theme of the song is 100% legit, things that people have thought before, and it's true. Like there's a lot of things that folks did that just wouldn't go over well any other place than some of these big cities. Like it doesn't even have to be a small town. The stuff that people did like during riots and whatever would not have worked during the they wouldn't have worked in the suburbs either. So, and they didn't even work in all cities because some cops just like would not put up with that. Like in Detroit, they would not put up with a lot of this stuff going on. So I'll play a little bit with the sound, and then I'll turn it down. Hopefully that's enough to not get flagged.
Sucker punch somebody on the sidewalk, carjacking old lady at a red light, pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store. You think it's cool, act a fool if you like. Cuss out a cop, spit in his face, stomp on the flag and light it up. Yeah, you think you're tough. Well, try that in a small town.
So yeah, if people think that any of that is like you guys can see what's in there, right? They're showing imagery of like the different riots and standoffs that they had, and if it automatically makes you think like, oh, they're talking about lynching black people, like don't go to the small towns and try this stuff because that's where they'll lynch you. They're saying that they're not going to put up with your garbage. Like there's one scene where he shows later where someone tries some stuff in a liquor store, as the lyric said, and they come in with a gun, and there's a guy there, and then he attacks them and he stops them. He stops a person from doing that. So he's saying we're just not gonna if you go to a small town, a lot of people are armed to the teeth. And if you think you're about to come in there and be all gangsta and just shoot up the place or make people do whatever, no, these people are armed and they know how to use their guns and they like them very much. So if you think you're about to come in like John Wayne or something, and everybody else here is a John Wayne, an actual John Wayne, you're not going to be successful in how you plan to terrorize everyone else. That's the issue. When people talk about like, oh, guns are bad and oh, they're so scary. Um, if I go to an event and like a Republican event, and am I concerned that something's gonna pop off or someone's gonna do something? Not really. Because I think that person won't live very long if they try something. Because everyone else was there's a lot of people who are armed, gladly trained. I know people who train other people, a lot of people who train other people how to use firearms. So even if I wasn't packing, I mean, I'm not saying I am or I'm not. That's for you to find out if dare if you like. But I definitely am always around other people that are packing. So that's the gist of this. Like you can't go to these places and think that you're going to act this crazy, that everyone's going to be cowardly and everyone's just going to allow you to act a fool. Like in these big cities, these criminals are conditioned to continue to do a lot of crime because when people do crime, they a lot of people are just dumb, you know. A lot of people are wise and know how to, I don't know, get around a lot of things, but people weigh their pros and their cons. If they know that they're only going to be charged if they steal a certain amount of money, like products that value a certain amount, they will steal up until the point of right under that dollar. and they will bring other people in with them and do the mobs, and they'll take stuff and they'll be off because they know that you're not going to get them. If you go to like a small town and try to rob a small store or something, maybe they're not waiting for the police. They're going to stop you in your tracks, and there aren't going to be a bunch of dumb rules like they are in like cities like California. So they don't have criminals who are probably like, oh, is it worth my life today? Oh, is it worth me going to jail? Because they will get me. They will apprehend me. And probably some Republican elected prosecutors and judges and stuff will throw the book at me. So people weigh their pros and their cons. They know that they can get away with this crazy stuff. But if you think that this is racist or something, there's people in the music video doing crazy stuff who are white. It wasn't just black. If you think it was like black people at large just going to these protests and doing these crazy things, what about those Molotov cocktails that like lawyers had? Who had those dumb zones in like Portland and other I'm not saying there weren't minorities there, but a lot of this madness is like white leftists, Antifa folks. So there's no utterance of like race and stuff in there. The lyrics: sucker punch somebody on a sidewalk, carjack an old lady at a red light, pull a gun. Man, if you do that in a small town, old lady might be packing. Like, hold on a second, reach into the glove compartment, bam. Pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store. Not gonna work out for you. You think it's cool? Well, act like a fool, if you like. And not just small towns. The song's about a small town. It's a country song. A lot of people who listen to songs are from small towns or whatever, who write the stuff from small towns, whatever. But you can't try the stuff in the suburbs, and not just because I don't know if there's. I'm not saying there's the same kind of like gun culture, but there is a. We're gonna call the police, and they will be blink, and they're outside. Blink, and they're outside, and you're going to jail. And we have prosecutors who will charge you, and you're going there for a while. You're not about to just terrorize all these people. There's a reason why this stuff happens in big cities with people elected with D's next to their name, and why crime's gotten so much worse. And these people think it's fun to do all this stuff and terrorize these people, but it's not a thing about black and whatever. You can see a lot of minorities might be doing like some of this crime, but these riots and stuff that they're showing that people are flipping out about, being the imagery in there. I saw a white woman run out of a cheesecake factory holding a cheesecake. What kind of tomfoolery is that? I'll never forget it. Like, some of it was missing. So I don't know if there was already a slice cut out, or if she had herself a piece before she decided to go, but she's just carrying the tray and it's just kind of jiggling. And I'm like, this is madness. And I was really disappointed. I'm like, people have got to know these people who are out there doing this stuff. I'm like, where are the parents? Where are, the grandparents or whoever to say, what is wrong with you going out and doing all this nutty stuff? Cuss out a cop, spit in his face, stomp on the flag, and light it up. Yeah, you think you're tough. Cuss out a cop. That my first thought would not even be like a black maybe that's a little racist of me, but like that just seems like crazy white people's mess to me. Like, sorry to get like like these Antifa lefty weirdos. Like I did I was arguing with somebody on TikTok, and someone they just kept calling the cops pigs and other stuff like that, and I looked at their profile, young, white lib. Sometimes people don't like when I get racial like that. I'm just like, I'm just telling you, I wasn't surprised that they were young white leftists. I just was not, and I wasn't wrong. Again, who are throwing these Molotov cocktails, who brainwash each other into saying these cops are bad? And they're like, yes, we need to defund the police and all this stuff. And you have black people in neighborhoods like, wait a second, I call the police all the time. All the time. I've called the police this year. And it was instinct. Something happened, it was instinct. And it wasn't even for my sake. I like heard like let's just call it a domestic situation, and I just immediately picked up the phone and gave the details. Like, we call the police. We call the police. And of course there's like activists, like the BLM activists who are Marxists and stuff, who don't like them and whatever as well. But all that has been, there's a book that's called communism, something, color, communism, and common sense. And the person who wrote it was a black guy who defected from the Communist Party and stuff. But he talked about how the communists would recruit black people to basically make them kind of like a trash population, in not so many words. But they'd recruit them, and no matter what, like they could not value their community or their blackness more than pushing communism. So when people say there's no kind of like, act like there's no system in place to have, um I don't know, ruin the black community. um there there's definitely been plots. Now you can make a choice, you can always make a choice to choose better and do better. Those decisions are laid at your feet, but there has been a concerted effort to destabilize some of these communities. um and a lot of this leftist ideology is continuing to do that, especially with the police stuff. When the police pull out of these neighborhoods, who are the ones who are left being victimized? um but to stomp on the flag, lighted, yeah, I'm not saying other races wouldn't do that, but if you read this and automatically think like, oh, this is a lynching song anti-black people, that's just not where my mind would go. Well, try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Around here, we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't. Try that in a small town. Got a gun that my granddad gave me. They say one day they're going to round up. Well, that bleep might fly in the city. Good luck. Yeah, people aren't giving up their guns, especially not in a small town. Try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Around here, we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't. Try that in a small town full of good old boys, raised up right. If you're looking for a fight, try that in a small town. Try that in a small town. In a lot of small communities, you'll see, people who are, everybody knows somebody. A lot of people might be related, or there's a sense of community, people going to church and other stuff. Like, I'm not saying all little towns are like that, but there's just kind of a different atmosphere when you're living in a little town and then you go out to a big city or something. There's just um I don't think that's really, you can be offended by that, but I don't really think that's much up for debate. I mean, there's just kind of a different atmosphere. And I've lived in not huge cities or anything like that, but inner cities, rural areas, suburbs, all within Michigan, and they're all a bit different. They're all a bit different. Try that in a small town, see how far you make it down the road. Around here, we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't. Try that in a small town. Try that in a small town, etc. So those are the lyrics. So pulling this over it being controversial and people thinking that it's racist or whatever. Like, this stuff happened. If you're embarrassed by the fact that this stuff happened, good. People just don't like it being called out, and being called out, and for it being obviously bad. Yeah, there's some people of different, some black people and folks who are in the video, but it happened. See, there's a video of the guy like taking out the gunman and stuff. But all this stuff happened. You should be embarrassed that this stuff happens. in your cities. You should be embarrassed. I mean, I guess if you didn't do it, you didn't do it, but if you know someone and or if you're the person who's doing this stuff or you did, someone in your family is doing this stuff, I would find it really embarrassing to know that they participate in these riots, that they go out and they terrorize these people, that they go out and they rob, that they hurt these folks. That people should be offended that it's true. And ask like, well, what is different about the small town that's not going on in these bigger cities? Like, because people complaining about this music video and the imagery and this message and the meaning that they just wouldn't put up with this stuff. They seem to be mad that people won't put up with the stuff. That's what it is. That's what it is. And I really think we are conditioning people to just either commit crime and be terrorized by the people who committing the crime. Like the Daniel Penny situation, um with the subway, he who stopped Jordan Neely, who was threatening people on the subway, saying he didn't care if he went back to jail and all this other stuff, and people felt endangered. So he like put him in a headlock, and there were two other people who helped, but Neely ended up dying. And they only show these pictures of him like young, being like, oh, but look at this street performer, this Michael Jackson guy who they you killed and stuff, and he just wanted to perform for people. When this man's like pushing women in front of like subway trains and try to kidnap somebody, I think, and is just harassing people, and people are terrorized on the subway. And then there's all this commentary from these libs. They're just like, oh well, I go on the subway and I just wouldn't think yeah, there's always people like terrorizing other folks and harassing women, but I would just never think to do anything. And I hear those admissions and I'm like, what is wrong with these people that you're listening to a grown man say, yes, I've seen people be victimized. It happens all the time. I would never think to stand up to that kind of person. Why? 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 Why would you think to not stand up to that kind of person? And it ticks me off because I'm just like, if I was on that train, I would have appreciated someone doing something, not the end result of what happened. I think that's tragic. I don't think this person probably should have been out in the streets. Probably should have been somewhere in a facility getting help. It's his family who's come out since his death to be all political. Where were you before? The help and the concern for Neely should have happened prior to that situation. But I don't think, and I think it's pretty clear that Penny didn't want that particular end result to happen. He just wanted to protect others around him. And I would have appreciated someone standing up and not allowing this madness to continue. And I've seen there's all kinds of videos of people being harassed. I showed you guys one video of a man who just grabs a woman's hair and she's just like shaking, trembling, and someone's just recording it and people are just watching it, not doing anything. So when you contrast that with the small town stuff, with the song and the atmosphere that he's like putting out, like people there in his kind of community just wouldn't put up with this stuff. But they want you to put up with this stuff. They want you to be that's just what it seems like. You punish the righteous and let the wicked run wild. And that's what happened like in 2020. Like, oh, this is just the cry of the unheard. How dare you care? They told you that if you cared about your stuff, you were complaining about the looting and the rioting and all that stuff, that you cared more about things than Black lives. Again, it wasn't just Black people out rioting and doing all that stuff. And what right do these people have? People were killed. People were killed during those riots. What right do you have to set things on fire, to beat old people, just clock them in their jaw because they want to protect their prop? What right did you these people have to do all those things? It won't bring anyone back. But if you complained about it, you're a bad person, and you better shut up and apologize for your white privilege and your racism and just allow them to run wild. I remember talking to someone online, and I was complaining about the riots, and basically they said that the collateral damage was acceptable. And I'm like, even if it's like black neighborhoods and their communities being messed up and stuff, and so once they said it was like the collateral damage was acceptable or whatever, they ended up deleting their tweets because they realized they were bad. And they privately messaged me and they apologized. But catch this, they didn't apologize because their thought process was monstrous. They apologized because they were a white person and it wasn't their place. It wasn't their place to say that to me, I guess, because they're white and I'm black. And I'm like, please don't say things like that. Please don't think things like that. Like, everyone has a valid opinion and you're allowed to speak regardless of your race. I just wanted to give you some perspective on the issue because I think you're wrong, not because you don't have a place to speak. So it's just wild. It's just wild to me. So I wouldn't have wanted people coming into my town and doing all that kind of stuff. And it was, I can't remember who what lib, um a black leftist, said this online, but he was like cheering on, like, the riots and other stuff like that. And then he's like, hold on, you guys are getting too close to where I live. And it's like, oh, well, you don't want that stuff to happen in the burbs. And it's funny because, like, it's not like people haven't thought about, like, oh, maybe we should go to the suburbs. People know that's a bad idea. They know what they can get away with. So they don't go in the burbs. They tried that stuff in the burbs. It would not end well for them. They can do that stuff in the city where there's these soft on crime DAs and other folks. But they can't do it in the burbs, and they certainly can't do it up in these small towns. I'm not saying crime and other things don't happen in these small towns or in the burbs. Certainly do, but there's a different mentality. So I think people are just mad with the audacity of him pointing out the obvious. And that there are people who are willing to stand up to the nonsense. That's what I think. That's what I think. um but shame on CMT for taking this down. And they I think they obviously shouldn't have, and but I do see that when I went to go look at the music video on like YouTube, there's a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is great marketing for CMT." Like taking this down, and thank you for taking you down because now I've heard this song and it's awesome, and people are like, this should go like triple platinum and stuff. So I'm sure it's going to climb in the charts, for sure. And I know that Jason said a post. I'm trying to find it really quick. Uh, Trying to find it really quick. But I'm glad that someone's sticking to their guns on this stuff, but I saw it earlier. Thought I liked it. So I could find it. Oh, here we go. Here we go. First thing I liked. In the past 24 hours, I have been accused of releasing a pro lynching song, a song that has been out since May, and was subject to the comparison that I, direct quote, was not too pleased with the nationwide BLM protests. These references are not only meritless but dangerous. There is not a single lyric in the song that references race or points to it, and there isn't a single video clip that isn't real news footage. And while I can try and respect others to have their own interpretation of a song with music, this one goes too far. As so many pointed out, I was present at Route 91 where so many lost their lives, and our community recently suffered another heartbreaking tragedy. No one, including me, wants to continue to see senseless headlines or families ripped apart. Try that in a small town for me refers to the feeling of a community that I had growing up where we took care of our neighbors regardless of differences of background or belief because they were our neighbors, and that was above any differences. My political views have never been something I've hidden from, and I know that a lot of us in this country don't agree on how we get back to a sense of normalcy where we go at least a day without a headline that keeps us up at night. But the desire for it, that's what this song is about. So, here's Shannon Watts replying to that. Shannon Watts is with Moms on Demand. They're really anti-gun. Translation: Jason Aldean simply wants to return to a time in America when good old boys could shoot or beat the bleep out of people who they didn't think belonged in their town. Also, this song is 2 months old and now far past the legal song judgment period. Good day. Um, it's not about who didn't belong in the town, Shannon. It's about you can't just come everywhere and act a fool. And people, and the hostility to this song just proves that there's a lot of places that people can go and act a fool. People will go where they know that they can get away with crime. That's why so many places are so bad, because they just know that they can get away with stuff. So it was a fine song. It wasn't, it's not my style, it's not my thing, but so I'm not gonna be one of the ones who contribute to it going triple platinum, but the controversy is annoying for sure. Moving on. In Michigan, the electors, who Trump had electors in different states where they were disputing his loss, like in Georgia and Arizona and Michigan. And there are people who, if you don't know, we have the electoral college, right? So there are actual electors who cast the votes that represent the state that day. So in 2016, I actually ran to be an elector for the 14th district, and I probably could have won if I kind of my strategy. Well, we were in our caucus for the 14th district, and we notoriously had long meetings, and so a lot of people were like, okay, let's just do one vote, and the whoever gets the plurality is done. And so someone who's a friend of mine was like, no, we should go with like the majority. If we don't hit that majority, we should do a second vote. And most people are like, nope, we just want to get out quick or whatever. So I got the second most votes, but I did not get the most votes. So, is what it is. And so someone was like, "If we had gone a second round, you probably would have won." And it's whatever. I was still there that day when they casted the votes. Um, but people were sending letters from all over the country begging them to change their minds. A friend of mine, got a letter that was a bit threatening, so it would have been kind of unnerving to get that much mail, I guess, into my house. So maybe it's for the best, who knows? But I was there that day, and there were a lot of protesters who stormed the Capitol, who were beating on the doors, who were singing like no fascist KKK USA, blah blah blah, kind of chants. And they started butchering, singing "We Shall Overcome," which is really really awful. When my dad arrived for the ceremony, he just like walked through the protesters, and they're like all white, and he's just like saying, "God bless Trump, God bless Trump," and people are looking like, "What are we supposed to do?" Of course, they got out of his way, but it was funny to me because like all the protesters were like white folks, and they were like chanting like, "We don't want no racist," blah blah blah. And I'm looking like around in the chamber, and the electors are a diverse group of people. The people inside the building, there's black people, Hispanic people, etc. I'm just like, there's way more diversity in here than there is out there, and we're just trying to solidify the will of the Michigan people. So when people, the whole like conversations about elections and people just kind of memory holding, trying to overturn results and stuff, I'm like, I lived through 2016 and I know how people reacted. And I remember 2000 and I guess 2004 with Bush. Well, Bush won pretty handedly in 20 to 2004, so like the 2000 election, and how that was disputed and stuff. There's people still didn't believe that man won in 2000. So there's lots of people who can't take losing an election. So people just pretending like it's some kind of new phenomenon. Like in the midterms, CNN did a huge article about, oh, here's all the people running for office who denied and elect who are election deniers or whatever. Well, they only specifically meant in relation to the 2020 election, because I'm like, I noticed they didn't put Stacey Abrams on this list. So and then they included people who just kind of were like, well, we got to just kind of investigate a little bit, because they included like Kristi Noem and Ron DeSantis, people who didn't like go to any stop the steals or anything like that, but they just were like asking questions at first, which is fine. If you think you hear something fishy and you're like, well, let's investigate that. That's why wouldn't you do that? But they just included all these people on their list, but left out Stacey Abrams, who was going around saying that she won the election. It was just bonkers. So a lot of this narrative is just so crazy to me. But anyway, Trump had his slate of electors. So while they were disputing it, because there's only a certain amount of time to certify everything. So if they came out like, oh, we have to throw out these ballots or something, we have to invalidate these ballots, turns out Trump won, and it's like, but we don't have any electors. Oh, we do have electors, are right here. So he had these different electors, 16 in Michigan, and Dana Nessel, our crazy attorney general, decided to go ahead and make charges for these folks. So CNN had kind of an interesting way to phrase what was going on. So I'm going to play their video, and I'm going to play what actually happened the day that they showed up at the Capitol, because they say that they like stormed the Capitol or something, and I'm like, that's not what happened.
Jake, there are 8 counts in all, 16 defendants facing 8 counts, really amounting to, if they were convicted on all of those, decades in prison. This is notable because this is the first time that these alleged fake electors are actually being charged criminally by state prosecutors. This coming from the Attorney General, Dana Nessel, right here in Michigan. This all stems from December 14th, 2020, when here in Michigan, 16 of those fake electors tried to storm into the Capitol just behind me. They were actually stopped by police, but they had these fake certificates declaring Donald Trump the winner of the state of Michigan, despite the fact that Joe Biden had actually won this state by 154,000 votes. The police stopped those electors from forcing their way into the Capitol, but they were prepared to try to argue that Donald Trump had won the election. And after a long investigation by the Attorney General, she actually initially referred it to federal prosecutors at DOJ, but then actually started her own investigation back in January. She is now charging 16 of those defendants. We've been watching the court proceedings happen throughout the day here. Those defendants are expected that they will turn themselves in the coming days. And I will note that there are some notable names among these 16 defendants. One of them is Michonne Maddock. She's the co-chair of the Michigan Republican Party. Another one, Kathy Burden. She's one of the Republican National Committee members here in Michigan. So, Jake, this is a notable move by the state's Attorney General, Dana Nessel, charging 16 of these fake electors. Notably, There's also these investigations into the fake electors scheme in those 6 other states where those electors tried to submit those fake documents in favor of Donald Trump. Those investigations, particularly in Georgia and Arizona, are ongoing. And today, the first state charges against those fake electors for a number of different charges, including forgery, also conspiracy to commit election law forgery. So, Jake, a notable move coming from the Attorney General here in Lansing, Michigan.
All right, Jessica Schneider with the breaking news for us in Lansing, Michigan. Thank you.
So, storm break in or force their way. So that's not what happened. They make it sound more aggressive than what it was. So here's just a little trip down memory lane.
So you're telling us we can't enter? Yes. Okay, would you say that on the What did he say? He said we can't enter.
What I said was, for the Capitol Commission, for the governor's office, for the Speaker of the House, for the Speaker of the Senate, the Capitol is closed unless you have an office here to conduct business today, or if you are taking part in the Electoral College process. Anybody else is not permitted to come in.
They are here to
The electors are already here, they've been checked in.
They're also electors.
Capitol is closed. All 16 electors that we've been advised by the governor's staff that we're going to be here to vote in the Electoral College have been checked in, they're already here.
But these are the rest of the electors.
I understand, but the Capitol is closed, everybody's permitted to come forward.
Captain, the electors are also, the GOP electors are also on the governor's certificate of ascertainment.
I'm not going to get into a political debate. I'm following
It's not a
orders.
political debate.
Okay.
It's the official sealed document. The certificate of ascertainment has also the GOP electors. They are here. They're trying to do their constitutional duty.
I understand.
And their constitutional duty requires them to be at the Senate chamber today at 2 p.m.
Okay.
They're here.
They're not. I understand they're not being permitted in. If you have a problem, you can contact the governor's office, the Speaker of the House, the Senate Majority Leader, or.
I saw the governor's press release this morning. It said due to COVID. Is that the reason being given?
No.
All right, that was what the press release said. Is there another reason why?
You'd have to ask the governor's office to answer that question. I don't have.
We have a copy of paperwork that was prepared as electors under their constitutional duty. Can I speak to the Sergeant of Arms of the Senate to deliver it to the chamber today?
He's in a meeting right now at the Electoral College. He's not available to meet.
Captain Green, is it
First Lieutenant Green?
First Lieutenant, can you deliver this?
I cannot.
Okay. Is there anyone here that is willing to allow us? I've got elected officials and electors.
Okay.
To deliver this to the Senate today at 2 p.m.
Okay. I can ask the Senate Majority Leader, the House Majority Leader, and
Senator Mike Shirkey, would you deliver that to him? Tell him Ian Northam.
You can contact his office directly and make arrangements to drop that off to him. So I'm not.
Well, you're not letting us in the building. His office is inside.
He's not here.
What's that?
He's not here.
So are you telling me that the Senate chamber is in session and the Senate leader's not here?
Yeah. So you'd have to contact his office and make arrangements to meet with him to turn over.
Right. Somebody from the governor's team that's running this.
You'd have to contact the governor's office with their team to make arrangements for them.
Right. Again, the electors by statute, it's statute MCL 168.47, have to be at the Senate chamber today.
Okay.
At 2 p.m. They're trying.
I'm telling you that they're not going to be allowed to enter the Capitol.
All right. Thank you, Lieutenant.
You're welcome. Thank you.
What was your hope and plan today by coming here?
The electors can speak for themselves, but the hope and plan is for them to follow their constitutional duty. Under the U.S. Constitution, not just the Michigan Constitution, but under the U.S. Constitution, the electors have a duty to vote for their chosen candidate. In this case, the GOP electors slate their chosen candidate, President Trump. The Democrat electors are inside, I'm told, slating their chosen candidate, Joseph Biden. There's actually Green Party and Libertarian Party electors selected before the election as well. So the statute says it has to be done at 2 p.m. That's why they're here trying to do it. That paperwork is signed, it's sealed, and it's trying to be delivered. Stevie.
So, anyway, does that sound like they tried to force their way in? And so I'm not saying like CNN painted some kind of super hysterical thing of what happened, but the language, the word choice is always interesting when you watch particular things on the news. Like for example, when Mike Pence came to town when he was first announced as Trump's VP pick, um he was in Novi actually sang the national anthem at that event, and my dad gave the opening prayer for that rally. And the news ended up interviewing one of my sisters, being there, and they did a report on the room, and they said that that his crowds were evolving as far as the sort of diversity in there. And they mentioned that there were young people, and that there were people of different minority groups there, but the report said it was in their reporter voice, like, it was overwhelmingly white. And I'm like, who talks like that? Who goes into a space that's just like, I'm overwhelmed by all of the white people here. So I find the language that people use pretty interesting when they're on the news. So saying that that they forced their way in, and they had to be stopped by the police. I don't know what picture that paints in the mind of someone watching CNN. Think, and I think they used like the language they were storming or whatever, and that's does it that look like what happened? They came to the building. The police said no. They respectfully talked to them, asked for different people, and they're like, no, we're not let you talk to them, not gonna take anything, you gotta contact people at the office or whatever. So this is very different from my experience from 2016. Now they didn't have Democrat electors trying to come in and do like a dual ceremony. They just had all these protesters that were in begging us to change, well, not us, but the people who were the electors, to change their votes to circumvent the will of the Michigan people. And by the way, there's Democrats who believe that it should not be up to popular um vote, that it should, at least not Michigan, that our electoral vote should go to whoever gets the popular vote of the entire country. And in my opinion, any elected official who says that should not be serving in any kind of state capacity, because or representing the people of a state. Because I'm like, if you don't think that your particular state matters and their particular voice matters, and you think that California and New York should just be able to overpower their voice, I don't think that you should be representing Michigan, or any other state. So I think that's an important question to ask these politicians. And but they were protesting, and they came in. At first they were outside, and then they came in, and I wanted to debate, and I wanted to go back and forth with some of them, but I was there in my like official capacity as working for the Michigan Republican Party. And my boss was like, she gave me eyes like, don't you do anything. She didn't say anything, but I felt the communication in the eyes of like them. Well, I think I started to say something at one point, and then I was like, okay, I will stop. So um those people like came in and storm. Now, is it like storm like I don't know, something 2020 kind of BLM riots kind of stuff? Not that intense, but way more aggressive than what actually happened in 2020. So with the Michigan law, it does say that you're supposed to be in the Senate chamber at 2 p.m. So this is a issue that the electors are running into, and I don't know what will happen legally, because they've been charged with like 8 different counts, and there's forgery and all kinds of other things. But the document that they signed, it says that they met at the Capitol at 2 p.m. And they tried, but they did not. Where they actually signed, stuff is in the basement of the Michigan GOP headquarters, which is not even 5 minutes from the Capitol. So after it failed here, they probably just went to the basement and then signed the documents. And not all the original electors who were there, like Terry Lynn Land, who's a former Secretary of State. Um, which, by the way, Michigan people have a particular accent, I guess, and say secretary and not don't really pronounce it correct. There's a guy on TikTok who pointed that out, and I just said it and realized. But anyway, um, um, she didn't show up that day to participate in this. So I don't know if that's because she just knew it would fail, believed that Trump didn't win, didn't want to be mixed up in all this legally and whatnot. But there's some people who just were there doing what they were told their part to replacing those folks. There's people like, oh, they knew they were trying to overthrow democracy and stuff. If you're from the outside looking in, and like you're on the other side of the aisle, or maybe you're on the right and you are just like, Trump lost, these people need to get over it, would you understand that there are people who sincerely believe that Donald Trump won, the election was stolen, that that a car showed up, that car did show up at 3 a.m., but that they imported all these ballots and that were not correct or something. They were not legit to figure out how many they needed to overturn the election. There are people who believe all these things, who believe that our democracy was just kind of stolen, and that they were trying that hopefully there was some kind of legal remedy, and that they were trying to prepare themselves, hoping that there'd be some kind of legal remedy that would correct the situation. So people out there who think that these were just people who were really just trying to defraud everyone in the country and overturn the will of what Americans actually wanted. They feel like what Americans actually wanted was undermined and taken away. So you can say, well, those people are nuts. You can believe that, you can know that, you can whatever, you can debate that. But I just want to let you know that people are sincere, and not everybody's sincere. I think there's a lot of people who are out there taking advantage of people who sincerely believe these things. So people painting these people like they're horrible. Um, I know some of these people, and I know some of them quite well. Um, and they're kind, they're sweet. Everybody is like 50 and up, man. Michonne Maddock is 55, and the rest of everyone on the list is like 70, 80. You know, let me see the list. Kathy Burden is 70, and her husband just died of cancer not too long ago. I mean, it was a few years, but um, William Hank Choate, he's 72. He's a farmer. He's a really nice guy. Someone else is 55, 75, 71, 82, 65, 56, 73, 55, 76, 64, 81, 69, 68, 70. I mean, it's not 70, 69. We're so close. So, these charges that they have, they could get decades in jail for signing a paper. But there is some precedent though, and with Kennedy, and Breitbart is reported this. The Trump campaign created several slates of alternate electors. This was not an attempt to create fake or fraudulent electors to fool authorities, but rather to provide a legal remedy in the event the election results were overturned. The fear was that if a court or a state legislature invalidated the Electoral College vote of Michigan or another closely contested state, these votes would not be awarded to Trump without electors. Democrats themselves used this strategy in the 1960 election, a close race between Vice President Richard Nixon and Senator John Kennedy. Nixon's Hawaii electors met and cast their three votes in an official ceremony, but nearby Kennedy's three electors nominees gathered and signed their own certificates, delivering them to Washington as though Kennedy had won the state. Until now, it's been under. I mean, sorry. the light's kind of creating a glare. Until now, it's been unclear whether the 1960 case for Kennedy electors was truly analogous to 2020 Trump electors, but the unofficial Democratic certificates obtained by Politico from the non digitized files of the National Archives show the three Kennedy electors signed documents that are remarkably similar to the false Trump elector certificates. Instead, the Hawaii Democrats used virtually the same language that the false Trump electors in 5 states used in their effort to upend the 2020 race. In those documents from Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Georgia, the pro Trump activists described themselves as duly elected and qualified. In 2 other states, Pennsylvania and New Mexico, Trump allies submitted alternative elector slates but included a caveat: their votes would only be counted if ongoing court battles broke in favor of Trump. So, yeah, I guess they should have probably included that language, but I'm telling you, I would think that most of those people on that list sincerely think that Trump was elected and rightfully in Michigan. And you can agree with that, you can disagree with that. Um but I think that's the case. So, if you think these are like evil people who are twirling their mustache, like we're going to just overturn our democracy, it's really not like that. I don't know what's going to happen. Our attorney general, as I said at the top of the hour, is crazy, and I mean that. She's the person who was mad about the Muslims in Hamtramck, who said it was evil to have a neutral flag policy because um treating everyone equally, I guess, under the law, or having uh, um, neutral just policies, blanket policies, undermine and disadvantage the oppressed. I suppose. So she thinks them having a policy that says we can only fly government flags, like U.S. flag, state flag, etc., and which means that you can't fly a pride flag. Also means you can't fly a Christian flag. With some scriptures that talk, from Leviticus and other places on it. It protects everyone by just saying, "Hey, let's just fly what's agreed upon and shared upon. If you're an LGBT American, the American flag represents you too. You don't need to fly your ugly monstrosity on government property." But she thinks that's evil. When the Roe v. Wade was overturned, in Michigan, we did pass a ballot initiative that ended up changing our constitution, unfortunately. But abortion was like illegal, pretty much. And so she was like, "I'm not going to follow any sort of law that I don't agree with, and I'm not going to direct any resources to do anything that I don't agree with, that I think it's going to hurt women or kill women." I'm just like, "Bro, do you know what abortions do?" But so there were particular laws that she didn't agree with, she wouldn't follow, and she wouldn't direct any resources to like kind of recuse herself and make sure that people could still like follow the laws. She went after like Christian groups that were foster care centers and stuff that had exemptions, illegal exemptions, to say, we only like adopt people, let kids be adopted by um couples of a different sex and stuff. They went after them. They had to back off after the Supreme Court was in favor. I don't know if it went up to the Supreme Court, maybe but there was a court case in another state that went a similar situation, and the Christian group ended up winning, so they had to back off of that. I'm sure they'll just maybe they'll try to change that again. Go after them again since she's lame duck. She went after people very hard during the pandemic. There's a particular pizzeria owner, like some of her messages were just crazy. Like, can't we just pick her up? Like, because they didn't want her to go on like Tucker Carlson or whatever. She's just a wacky person. She wanted to defend Biden's unconstitutional OSHA mandate. This was before it was ruled like unconstitutional, but she wanted to make sure that people were forced or basically forced, absolutely coerced into getting a jab. She thought everyone should get a jab. She's just a nutty person. She's a person who said, vote for me because I don't have a penis and I can't assault you with a penis. So, um, if you are a man ever, before her, um, why should you think that you're going to get a good, fair deal? Since she's obviously sexist. So, she's a nutty gal. So, it really does feel, obviously politically motivated, but, I think these electors are gonna run into the issue. The trouble, obviously, the document says that they met in the Capitol to do this, and they didn't end up doing it because they wouldn't allow them in, obviously. Um, but it did say that they did it. So, I don't know what all will come out in court and reporting what's happening. I am again, there's people that I know, on this list who are good, genuinely good people, good-hearted, kind people, and, don't want them to see the rest of their years, um, in jail. But there's a clerk and farmer and, a mayor on this list. Just trying to see if there's anything else relevant that I wanna let you guys know before we go. Um Nestle said the false electors' actions undermine the public's faith and integrity, in our elections, and we believe as plainly violated by the laws in which we administer our elections in Michigan, said Nessel, a Democrat, in a statement. My department has prosecuted numerous cases of election law violations throughout my tenure, and it would be malfeasance of the greatest magnitude if my department failed to act here in the face of overwhelming evidence of an organized effort to circumvent the lawfully cast ballots of millions of Michigan voters in a presidential election. Again, she had sent this off to on a federal level, but apparently nothing happened. So she decided to do her own thing. I'm not saying that something federally won't also happen, but I don't. If you're from Georgia, I don't, and you did this. If you were an elector, I don't foresee that happening. Anything happening maybe in Georgia, in Arizona, I think there's maybe a chance, but Nestle is a special kind of bag of cats. Special kind of bag of cats. Um, and there's some lawyers who are like, oh, slam. Excuse me. There's some lawyers who are like, absolutely, this is they got him because the document they signed. Other ones say like, I don't know about that. Got to kind of look at the charges a little bit more. Um, the the counts are there's 8 felonies, 2 counts of election law forgery, 2 counts of forgery, and 1 count each of uttering and publishing conspiracy to commit forgery, conspiracy to commit election law forgery, and conspiracy to commit forgery. Stacked. Conspiracy to commit forgery and conspiracy to commit uttering and publishing, which carry the steepest penalties, are both punishable up to 14 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. The conspiracy charges allege the defendants worked with Burden, Maddock, and others to falsely make a public record the certificate of votes in 2020 electors from Michigan. Um, so we'll see what happens. And I'll keep you updated, but it's sad it's happening. I'm not really surprised. Again, we have an attorney general that's spiteful and crazy, and I don't know what's I don't know what's gonna happen, but we'll keep you up to date. Anyway, That's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at the website of blacktnews.com, cost of stream, run my website, all that stuff. So if you can support, I very much appreciate you. You guys can also give stars and super chats, but the best way to donate is actually to go just directly to the website. So thank you to those who have, in the past and will do so in the future, whether it's gift of $10 or $20 or more. Every little thing does really help. Oh, I guess I told you guys who I might interview. I was trying to interview Kyle Rittenhouse, and it didn't quite end up working out. So maybe some other times. That's why I was maybe not going to be here. We were trying to work it out, but it didn't quite work out. So maybe perhaps another time. We shall see. But we shall see. But make sure you guys drop in your email at the website and stuff, so you guys know what kind of stuff is going on, when there might be like some interesting or cool interviews or different videos or articles that I've written that that I highlight. There's an article that I'm working on right now that's pretty interesting. I've talked a lot about Sound of Freedom, and I just have found like so many kind of like, you want to call them divine sort of connections. So it seems like the universe working together for this movie to come out of this particular time. So stories about, Tim Ballard and Jim and the director and even the financiers of the film were Angel Studios. Like, for example, because Angel Studios helped to get it out in the different theaters and stuff. But it was originally Fox was gonna had owned the movie, they were gonna distribute and stuff, and then Disney bought Fox, and then Disney was like, "Oh, well, this isn't good with our brand, so we're not gonna let this out." And then they eventually got it from Disney, and then Netflix and Amazon didn't really want it, so Angel Studios ended up picking it up. But the funny thing about Angel Studios is Angel Studios used to be Angel Vid, and Disney and some other corporations basically sued them out of existence because Angel Vid was like, if you have like a movie or something playing, you'd have Angel Vid, I think it's installed or something, and Angel Vid would cut out like swearing and other things like that you deem to be like inappropriate for your kids that you want them to listen to and stuff. So sounds like a good product. A lot of people did like it. I knew some people who had it. And some people were like, it's a little much, but um Disney and other groups got together and sued them out of existence, and they basically went bankrupt and stuff. So they decided, like, you know what, we're gonna make our own stuff. And that's what they did. And so that's one of the things I'm gonna like talk about. But like the director of the film listened to Tony Robbins, one of his like, I think he either had his book or listened to one of his lectures and stuff, and really decided to get his life together. And of course, Tony Robbins is the biggest financer of like Operation on Underground Railroad. So there's just all these like cool little interconnected things that I've noticed listening to a lot of different interviews about it. So I think it'll be a really cool article. So um make sure that you guys are checking up when I post my articles, because I'm writing some interesting different things. So anyway, God bless you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.